There we go, that's what I'm talking about. Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins out there around the world, it's time to plug in. Let's get the train chugging, shall we? And top GOP, those are the Republicans, remember, the grand old party, as they like to call themselves. The top GOP senator decries the Capitol riot conspiracies. To decry something is to basically criticize it in a very harsh, severe, strong way. Let's learn more about this in the caption below. And so Roy Blunt he pushed back on comments made by his fellow Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, saying that Americans don't need alternative versions of what occurred during the Capitol insurrection, during the riot, during the insurrection. I did highlight it down below, I forgot to here. But that's basically a coup d'etat when a group of people forcibly try to take control of the government. And, well, evidence says this, but many Republicans are saying that. And Roy Blunt is pushing back on those people, saying, like, no. We don't need alternative versions and theories about what happened. The evidence is plain and clear. So he's pushing back on the comments made by Ron Johnson, and the best part is he did it, as we saw up above, he decried Ron Johnson, and so he is very harshly, severely criticizing him, and the best part is his last name is Blunt, and that is, blunt is the opposite of sharp. Well, a knife is sharp, a spoon is blunt, or dull, you could also say, but to put things bluntly means that you're basically giving the unvarnished truth. You're not diluting anything, you're not sugarcoating it, it's unadulterated, and you're not making it sound better than it really was. You're giving them the cold, hard truth. To speak frankly, to speak bluntly, and so it's really funny when people's surnames end up coinciding with what it is that they do. Let's move on. Ron Johnson falsely claims that there was no violence on the Senate side during the Capitol riot. That's my nose tickling, folks. False. As you often know, on the show we've got true and we've got false, and usually the truth does fall somewhere in between what people claim to be true and false, but yes, here we go. We've got false, the adjective, as an adverb, and it's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? I love adverbs. They really color the speech in the way that you are able to describe more concisely what it is that happened. But let's move on. Wisconsin voters are weighing in on Senator Ron Johnson, and some people are saying, oh, he's okay, and other people saying, oh, he's bad, and it's going back and forth, and it's like the Wisconsin voters are jumping on one side of the scale, and they're weighing in on trying to then influence the conversation, the discussion, the argument. And so to weigh in on something basically means to give your opinion about something. Maybe some people in your office, some people at school, they're debating what to do, and if you're going to put your opinion on there, it's going to tip the scales in your favor, or in the favor of that side of the argument. There we go. Visual vocabulary. Learn it, know it, love it, live it. Moving on. The Capitol Hill riot's long shadow is visible in day-by-day news coverage. That's right, a nice little metaphor. And yes, we're still feeling the echoes, the reverberations of what happened on January 6th, and that's a very acoustic metaphor, but here we've got a visual metaphor, meaning that what happened on that day is still casting a shadow that we're feeling in the effects of what happened then. We're still feeling and hearing about in news coverage today. Almost 3 months later. Yeah, almost 3 months later. Getting there. Getting closer. Let's move on. George Bush, his moment of blinding clarity. Now, the noun clarity coming from the noun clarity coming from the adjective clear, and it means he had a moment of clarity. And when a window is clean and clear, the sun can come through very, very brightly, and that can actually blind you, and you're just shocked. You drops your jaw, and you're almost frozen for a moment because George Bush spoke very bluntly about what happened that day at the Capitol. And so, yes, his moment of blinding clarity in which he criticized what happened and how just disgusting it was. Let's move on. All right. This was a massacre. The Atlanta shooting victim's family wants justice. And yes, there was a massacre in Atlanta. Some guy went around and killed 8 or 10 people around a number of Asian businesses in the Atlanta area, and that's absolutely disgusting. But a massacre is an event in which many people lose their lives, often in a horrible, violent, and gruesome fashion. Yeah, they were just shot and killed in their places of work. It's just revolting, and there's no excuse for this sort of behavior. What's going on, America? Please, the world would like to know. Moving on. A history-making Korean American Congress women fight back against racial bias, and they're saying, don't mess with us, and don't cause us problems, don't interfere with our business. And because there might be some sort of pushback, there might be some other ramifications to that. To mess with somebody could just mean to play jokes on them, it could mean to bother or annoy them, or it could mean to interfere with what they're trying to do. To mess with somebody just means to create problems with them. Yeah? Or for them, actually. With them, for them. Yes. Moving on. Thousands are fleeing once-in-a-century flooding in Australia, I do believe in Sydney. And to flee means to evacuate, to run away from some place, usually because of danger. We see this on the news every once in a while, and I actually saw a different article with a little bit of video, and it was about the millions and millions of spiders which are fleeing these floods in Australia, and they're carpeting homes. Homes are like covered in spiders and things. It's really pretty creepy. If you have a phobia of insects or arachnophobia, I would suggest not watching that video. That's it. Nihan, Mama Mushroom, welcome to the show. Diplomats denied access as Canadian Michael Kovrig goes on trial in China. He is going on trial for some sort of crimes, and everything looks like this is pushback against the imprisonment and legal processes against the Huawei official in Canada at the request of the Americans that say Huawei has committed crimes. So Canada arrested this Huawei official, and so now China, as a little tit-for-tat retaliation, has basically taken several Canadians into custody, and now they are being put on trial for crimes against the state. Now, in Canada, the Huawei official lives quite comfortably, has freedom to come and go and basically carry out a normal life, whereas in China, they're basically being held in prisons, or prison camps, and maybe even being tortured, and the Chinese government is denying access to the diplomats, not allowing them to speak with their citizen who is on trial for crimes against China or whatever it may be. And so basically to deny something means to say no. Now, we can often deny a story. Somebody makes an accusation, you can deny it, saying, no, I didn't do it. Or we can also deny, yes, in this case, deny access. And here, the diplomats were denied access. That's a reduced passive by the Chinese government. And so they're not allowing them to enter. Yeah, that's it. All right, moving on. A Pakistani court sentenced 2 men to death for a highway gang rape. That sounds absolutely disgusting, but they have sentenced 2 men to death, and to sentence court in a trial in court, people are found innocent or found guilty. If they are guilty, then they are given some sort of punishment, and that is the verb to sentence. In this case, they are sentenced to death. You can also be sentenced to a term in prison of several years or several months or your entire lifetime. But That's that. Good morning, Steniak. Hello. And sorry to hear about your internet connection there, Nihan. Welcome back. Long time. Nice to see the little mushroom icon. Good morning, mushroom. Off to Israel. Netanyahu credits himself with bringing Israel back to life, and blah 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 blah. The point being here, we often hear the phrase to give someone credit for doing something or give someone credit for having done something, just like Trump wants to get credit for creating the virus. And so in this case, Netanyahu is not waiting for anyone to give him credit. He's crediting himself. Ta-da! There you go. And so instead of being used as a noun here, it's being used as a verb. Ta-da! There we go. That's beautiful. Let's move on. I can feel a sneeze coming, so if I disappear off camera and you hear some explosive sounds, have no fear. It's just my allergies kicking in. Biden vows to ease border surge. That's right. There has been a surge, a dramatic increase of people, immigrants, refugees coming across, or coming to, if not across the border, into the United States, thinking that Biden will take a more flexible stance towards them and an approach towards them than his predecessor Trump did. And so we've seen a wave, a growing amount of people, a surge of migrants coming across the border. And Biden vows to ease this situation. I don't know how he's going to ease the surge because he's not in control of the surge itself. He can only deal with those that do come. But to vow to do something is to promise, just like when you're getting married, you exchange vows. To love and to hold in sickness and in health and poorness and wealth, poverty and wealth until we die. Yeah, and then you put the ring on the finger, those are vows. It's like promise, next level, folks. Moving on. It's on the news in one way or another almost every day, and we even saw it up above with the history-making Korean Congresswomen having made history by being Korean women in Congress. But here we've got a goalkeeper making history with a late goal. Yes, goalkeepers don't normally score goals. And so perhaps this was historic. Yes, when we make history, that is something that is historic, meaning that it makes history. Historical is just about history, folks. Let's keep it rolling. Two people, I have no idea who they are, but Bella Thorne and her longtime boyfriend, Ben Moskalo, are engaged. That doesn't just mean that they're busy, but that means they have asked each other to get married. Or he asked her, most likely, in our normal societal fashion. The man asked the woman to get married, and she has said yes, and so they are now engaged to be married. And so if you say, hey, you want to go get a coffee? She say, thanks, I'm busy. I'm with somebody else. Get it? See, that's how engaged works. All right, moving on. Some more sad economic news coming out of Turkey. The Turkey's lira has plunged yet again to, I think, almost 8.5 lira per dollar at an all-time high after Erdogan fired his central bank head. That's right, he fired him. He has kicked him out of his position. He's ousted him, pushed him out, removed him, kicked him out, booted him, or something along those lines, depending on what sort of verbiage you want to use. However, yes, the lira has plunged yet again in its own value, causing the American dollar to surge against the lira. Sad state of affairs in Turkey, and it's just, once again, a non-economic person exerting control over the economy and thus having a negative effect on said economy. Best of luck, Turkey. That's about all I can say. Moving on. Arrest warrants for 2 Iraqi government critics have sparked outrage. Yes, warrants, the piece of paper for the arrest of 2 people, has sparked outrage. And so, to spark, much like with a lighter, the little spark is what starts a flame. Flames are hot, and heat is anger. And so, yes, rage is extreme anger, and it's directed outwards. And so, to spark outrage, But to spark something just means to basically cause something to happen, much like to trigger something. But in this case, it's very visual, and we'll see it again down below, I do believe. Spark a conversation, spark an argument, spark a debate, spark outrage. Moving on. Michelle Obama crashed a Zoom call. See how the participants reacted to her having crashed the call. To crash something, just like the famous Owen Wilson film, The Wedding Crash. I think it's Owen Wilson, but there's the wedding crashers, funeral crashers. You hear about gate crashers, party crashers. And so if you crash something, and we're not talking about physically, like a car, yeah? If you crash an event or some sort of activity, that just means that you turned up, you arrived unexpectedly as an uninvited guest. And so, well, she was probably invited by the host. However, the other participants did not know that she was going to be in attendance, and I'm sure that they were shocked, surprised, awestruck, and any other number of other colorful adjectives. All right. My nose is itching, but I've not sneezed yet, so we're good so far. Moving on. Another coronavirus surge. We had a surge of migrants coming to the U.S. border up above, and as usual for the past year, we've got a coronavirus surge. Now, the FDA chief says that another surge is unlikely. Jimmy Fallon said it, huh? Or hosted it or something. Yeah, well, there you go. Not so much a surprise. He can get any sort of guest that he wants, being one of the biggest names in late night television. Point being, likely. We know the term like, oh my God, and I was like this and she was like that, or I like your photo. It's awesome. Well, in the terms of likely here, it looks like an adverb, but it is an adjective, and it means probable. Yeah? And so if something is unlikely, it's improbable. It probably won't happen. Yeah? And so then we hear about likely, the likeliness of something happening, or the likelihood of something happening. Well, here they say that another surge is unlikely, but having seen some of the footage from Miami Beach partiers in Florida for spring break, I think a surge is quite probable. It is very likely. But maybe the person's just trying to paint a pretty picture. Yeah? Moving on. As supplies run low, a Brazilian town says it could be forced to take patients off ventilators, thus effectively probably causing the death of these patients, which is very, very unfortunate. But yes, to run out, like when the pandemic started, we saw that stores were running out of supplies. They were running out of toilet paper and foodstuffs. Well, in this case, they're just running low, which means that supplies are dwindling. Yes, there are less and less and less of everything out there, and so they're going to be forced to ration them and choose who gets what and when, and in this case, sadly, effectively choosing who lives and who dies. That's really a tragic situation. I hope they bring the COVID situation under control in Brazil. Lots of needless loss of life. Much thanks to Mr. Bolsonaro. Boo. Moving on. See how a Hamilton star reacts to Dr. Gupta's surprise PSA rap. A PSA? And that actually turned up on one of the crosswords we did. It's a public service announcement. And apparently Dr. Sanjay Gupta did some sort of rap as an anti-COVID PSA. And the Hamilton star, probably Lin-Manuel Miranda, reacted to it. Well, either way, point being, just the dependent preposition, to react to something, to react to someone. That's it. Just a dependent preposition. Let's move on. Vaccine hesitancy may not be why people of color are getting COVID shots at a lower rate. Hesitancy, nice noun coming from the adjective hesitant. To be hesitant to do something might look familiar, but yes, coming from the verb to hesitate. And that to hesitate means that you pause before doing something because you're reconsidering whether or not you want to do it. And so here what they're saying is it might not be them thinking about not doing it. There might be other reasons behind the lower rate of people of color getting the vaccine. Maybe they're not being given the vaccine, or it's not being made available to them, sadly, because as usual, they're people of color. Yeah, more socioeconomic and racial discrimination. Moving on, another React 2 here. As I was saying, the crazy situation in Miami Beach with spring break goers. There were apparently stunning pictures, shocking videos, and the anchor of the newscast reacts to the crowds in Miami Beach. Remember, the anchor is the host of any sort of program. Much like when you have a boat and then you drop the anchor is what stops the boat from floating away. But basically, as the water moves and the wind blows, everything rotates around the anchor, and the anchor is the only one that stays in a fixed place. Much like on a TV show or radio program, the anchor is the host, and that's the only person that stays the same as other guests and segments come and go. Moving on. Probably more explanation than we needed there, but hey, I like it. Visual vocabulary. Indian sailors have been caught or were caught. They are now being held captive. They have been abducted in a piracy boom. That's right, piracy is booming. That means there has been a dramatic rise in piracy. Just like whenever we see some sort of economic downturn and economic hardships, people start resorting to forms of violence and criminal activities. Merrick, hello, good morning. Oh, that's a pretty little princess. No, it's not a princess, but what is that, a wrench in the person's hand? I don't know. Welcome back to the show. Good morning to you. Welcome to today. It's Monday, the 22nd of March. And I hope you're getting your day and your week started off on the right foot. Let's, move on. What will travel look like when the pandemic is over? Over just means finished, done. Yeah, just like game over means your game is finished. You've lost all the lives of your character. And will it ever be over? Well, that's up for debate. Let's move on. This has turned up in the headlines and has made news quite a few times recently, but this rare bowl from like the Ming Dynasty was found. It turned up at a yard sale and it sold for over $700,000. Yeah, here you are, a yard sale, a garage sale, much like you see in American movies and series where people take the things they don't want and they put them in the garage in the front yard, up for sale to anyone who might want them, often for very, very low prices. Yes, this bowl was very rare. There are not many of them, not common, and so very rare because it's from the 1400s, the 15th century, if my memory serves me correctly. And so one could even say, yes, it's an ancient bowl that just turned up and was found at a yard sale. The family that sold that for $1 is probably pretty sad that this other person turned around and sold it for quite a profit. That's a hefty chunk of change, folks. $699,999 profit. Wow, that's a return on investment. Some serious ROI at the garage sale. All right, Wall Street's biggest concern, their biggest worry is no longer COVID. It's not COVID anymore. That's not the biggest worry. It's inflation. And we're not talking about balloons, folks. We're talking about economic inflation where there's more and more money and the money's worth less and less and less. And so when there's more money in the system, that means prices can go up and things can get out of control. And so the government will probably be putting in some sort of restrictions or limitations or raising interest rates so that way there's less money in the system and hopefully slow that inflation. A small level of inflation technically is healthy for a growing economy, and deflation is bad. Much like for car tires and balloons, deflation is harmful. Whatever. You can tell I'm finally waking up and the coffee is kicking in. All right, let's move on. Still a lot of ground to cover here. First GameStop, now gorillas. Redditors are pouring money into saving apes. That's right. Instead of saving GameStop, now they're saving an endangered species and they're pouring their money into saving apes. Much like I can pour this glass of water into my mouth. I'm not going to do that because I'll make a big mess here in the studio. But yes, nice visual vocabulary. They're not just dropping in a little bit here and there, they're going full in, pouring their money into a good cause. Other than making more money for themselves and screwing Wall Street, they're trying to help endangered animals. Good on you, Redditors. Keep up the good work. Nice visual vocabulary. Well done, CNN writers. This lady is losing her parents to QAnon, the conspiracy theory, and more or less a cult. And listen to her plea for help, or plea for other people to help them avoid suffering the same fate. Yeah? They don't want them parents going down the rabbit hole and breaking the family apart following basically what is a nonsensical cult. A plea is like a prayer. It's like you're begging for help. Help, please, please. They heard pleas and cries for help and assistance. All right, moving on. Dad mics up his skiing toddler and captures her adorable pep talks. Now, anytime you use a microphone or a video camera, we're capturing moments of reality. Then we can have it and hold it and put it in our pocket and watch it later or listen to it again. We have captured it, we have caught it, and it's now ours forever, unless your hard drive fails. And her adorable pep talks. Pep is energy, in a way, but a pep talk is what you would give, like a coach at halftime to his football team, be it American football or the world football, and the coach gives them a pep talk to motivate the people, fire them up, and get them excited for the second half. And she's giving herself pep talks, which, I mean, anyway, her skiing is adorable. Very, very cute. Coming from, I don't know. To adore something means that you love something and you really, really like it, and it's pleasant on the eyes and it evokes some emotion and it's cute, and just like this little girl skiing down a mountain. That's it. I bet her pep talk. Okay, now you can do it. Now wedge to the right, pizza to the left, etc. Now here comes that sneeze finally. And I'm back. And now I've got goosebumps. I fear there may be more. The sneezes travel in packs, folks. Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on. We had this headline last week, but it's a great little piece of vocabulary. This is a portrait of Mongolia's burgeoning hip-hop scene. It has been there, but now it's growing rapidly and gaining international attention and drawing the eyes and ears of people from around the world. Burgeoning means growing very quickly and technically for the first time. And so, yes, it's burgeoning. You could also say it's blossoming, much like a flower. Some good vocabulary for springtime here. Let's move on. Top soccer match or football match ends in chaos after racist abuse accusations. Chaos, remember, means basically anarchy. Coming from ancient Greek, meaning the void or the abyss. And it's like floating in dark space and no rules apply, and so anything can happen. Ooh. Yeah, it's really sad for as multiracial and multi-ethnic as the beautiful game is, there's still a lot of prejudice and discrimination within probably our most colorful sport. That's just sad. Moving on. Will you marry me? Proposing at the Olympic Games. I don't know why this is news or how this is news or why it's here, but up above we had some people who have recently become engaged, and the way that people become engaged is by one person, typically in our society the male, getting down on one knee and asking the other person to marry them. That is to propose. A proposal. And technically, to propose means a suggestion. You can give business proposals and other types of proposals, but when talking about weddings, That's what they mean when they say he popped the question. All right, moving on. A surfer was enjoying the trip of his dreams until everything went wrong. Just a nice phrase. Things went well, things went right, things went wrong. Things went wrong, that's not good. And when you're surfing, that's not a good thing because any number of types of injuries is possible. Yes, one knee is the appropriate fashion to do so. Unless you're being sarcastic, I guess. And praying the other person accepts your proposal. Meet the woman keeping NBA stars in line. Yes, to keep someone in line, much like school children, if you don't discipline them and give them rules, it's chaos, it's anarchy, they're running around doing stuff, and so you put them in a line, and then therefore they are under control and following the rules, behaving appropriately. Yes, and so this lady is keeping them in line. Because, well, many of these people are quite young and now they have tons and tons of money, and so the temptation to misbehave is probably quite alluring. And so they've got her to keep them under control. Moving on. How esports has helped its fans get through lockdown. To get through a situation just means to survive it. Yes? And so, we've got bad situations. We can get around them, we can get over them, but some of them we can't avoid, and then therefore we just have to get through them. And, well, how esports has helped its fans get through lockdown, I think esports has helped a lot of people in general just get through lockdown because, well, it has given them something to do whilst being locked down. Moving on. Lena Bloom, another person in the news that I have no idea who they are, but is making history. Ta-da! Just that co-location that turns up here on the news several times a day, almost every day, to make history. Moving on. Permanent dissent. Myanmar protesters are getting inked for democracy. It took me a second to really read this in the darkness of morning before the coffee kicked in. And yes, they are getting inked. They are getting tattooed with phrases or slogans of protest against the government. Hence, the permanency, because tattoos are forever, and dissent is official, strong disagreement, their sort of protest. All right, well, enjoy. Good luck in your meeting, and I'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. for the crossword, just like we hope to see everybody else out there as well. It's going to be fun, I promise. Moving on. How non-fungible tokens are fueling a digital art boom. Again, a boom, an explosion in something, and things are becoming much more popular because, well, with digital art, it's almost impossible to say who is the actual owner of something. Because all the file formats are ultimately reproducible and you can just keep generating them over and over. And so by creating these NFTs, saying who is the actual owner of the original, that is fanning the flames and fueling the fire of desire. Wow, that little rhyme came out. Yes, to fuel something means giving it energy to propel it forward, and that's what's powering this upward explosion. See, oh no, Nihan, hopefully you stick with it. Moving on. I postponed my wedding 3 times. Not me, but the author of this article, apparently. And, wow, we got wedding vocabulary up in the news here, but this isn't really about the weddings. This is about postponing something. That just means that you're pushing it back on the calendar further away from you. Maybe you're just putting it off and setting it aside, saving it for a better time, or because you just don't feel like doing it right now. I think it's this person postponing, pushing back their wedding because of the COVID situation and the inability of her family or his family to attend. Yeah? Yeah. Moving on. Oh yeah. And so, set it aside until tomorrow. Put it off until tomorrow. Postpone it until next week, tomorrow, whenever. Moving on. A country that treats you as a perpetual foreigner. Perpetual, meaning forever, yes? And so no matter how long you stay, how well you learn the language or anything along those lines, you will always be a foreigner. You might fit in, but you're not going to be part of the family. Don't know where it is. If you click the link and read the article, let me know, because I'm always curious. I've just got too much to do today. Moving on. Warnock slams the GOP-controlled Georgia legislature for bill that would restrict voter access. That's right, the GOP, the Republicans, as always, are up to their old devices trying to restrict voter access, because the less people voting, it usually restricts poor people and people of color especially, and that's good for the Republicans. And Mr. Warnock, I forget his first name, is slamming them. He's decrying their efforts from the headlines at the top, and that just means to criticize somebody severely, harshly, and in a public fashion. Moving on. There it is. We also had insurrection up above, but an insurrection is a group of unruly, if not violent people, a mob, we could say, basically taking control of the government in order to overturn the government. Other people could say coup d'etat, but, in America, they don't like the French so much, or at least the French language, so we keep seeing insurrection here, and I think it's because Americans can't pronounce coup d'etat. I probably can't either, actually, technically, correctly. Moving on. Controversial congressman could emerge as a favorite in Alabama Senate race despite inflammatory remarks. All right, yes. Now, as he could emerge, or he could emerge as a favorite, as all these people who are competing for that chair, that position, and it's just a mess down here. And he could emerge as the favorite, and the favorite doesn't mean that people love him, but the one who is favored to win, who has the odds, who will probably become the winner of the election race and become elected as the congressman, or the position. I don't know. I haven't read the article. Sorry. And so inflammatory remarks or comments, and if something is inflammatory, look at the middle. Flames are hot. If something is inflammatory, it causes fire. Fire is heat. Heat is anger. Remember that. Inflammatory remarks, meaning comments that could make people angry. Ta-da. Long walk for that one, Mr. James. Lightning may have sparked life on Earth. That's true. There were all of the building blocks and components necessary for life, and maybe they just needed that zap of electricity to kickstart life and to spark life. Just like we had up above, spark controversy, spark discussion, spark outrage. It just means to cause it to start, much like a fire. Moving on. Hey, here we go. Just a simple dependent preposition, interfere with. 8 eating habits that can interfere with sleep. Yes, like eating a whole lot of heavy food before you go to bed. Yes, that will interfere with your sleep, probably giving you nightmares. At least it works that way for me. To interfere with any number of things can interfere with the progress that we are making as a society. Whatever. Digging for that one. Moving on. Our aversion to return to normal goes beyond just the office. Here's why. Actually, people don't want to go back to normal. Our aversion, they are trying to avoid it. We don't want to go back to normal. Some things have changed for the better, like now we don't spend hours a day commuting to and from the office or work. And there's other things, because it goes beyond just the office. So there's some other things about life now that we just don't want to go back to the old way of doing things. We're trying to avoid it, and that is our aversion. Moving on. Mission to clean up space junk with magnets is set for launch. They're going to launch this mission, and they're going to launch a rocket, because that's how we get to space. And so, double play on the word launch here, but we're not cleaning space junk. We're not going to be like polishing it, cleaning it. We're cleaning it up. We're tidying up space and those little bits and pieces and satellites that exist out there that can damage other existing functioning space hardware. And so we're going to use magnets to clean up this junk and remove it from orbit so that way it doesn't hurt other functioning or future satellites and stuff. All right. Google doubles down on office space despite the rise in remote work. Yes, everyone's going this way, remote work, but Google, despite that trend, is going the other direction, and they're doubling down on office space. Just like in blackjack, you get two of the same card, then you can double your bet, and then you get two hands to play instead of just the one. That is to double down, but it means to continue doing and increase efforts in one direction. Yeah? All right. That's it. And a nice little contrastive connector there. Despite this is what's happening, but they're doing that, and they're not just kind of doing that, they're doubling their efforts in that direction. Are they going to become the new WeWork? They're now moving into commercial real estate as well. Perhaps. Maybe. That's what it sounds like. They want to rule everything. They want to control everything. Moving on. An Amazon warehouse worker testifies to Senate. To testify, usually in front of a formal body, is to give a statement, comment, remark, or tell your story that you promise to be true. Typically, you will take an oath and vow to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, and give your official statement that something happened, and usually before some sort of official body. Yeah? And so, that was that. Those are the news today. Look at that, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. A lot of words on the screen today. But so, welcome to today, everybody. It's the 22nd of March. It's a Monday. Hope you're starting your day and your week on the right foot. Or for those of you out there that it's still Sunday evening, sweet dreams to you, and hope you get your week started well as well. It's time for me to get some breakfast and get started on the rest of my day. I've got 6 back-to-back lessons without a pause later and plenty of other things to do before then. So I'm off to the other races. Have a beautiful one. See you at 8 p.m. tonight for the crosswords. Hopefully some nice trivia, phrasal verbs, obscure vocabulary, and more. It's a good time. Bring your friends. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Yes, stop the stream. Shh.